Okay, so welcome back for this final session of the Reinforcement Learning Virtual School. This has been a crazy 6 days with lots of insights and lots of lessons learned um, on various different topics in reinforcement learning. We wanted to conclude this virtual school by a general wrap-up that Sébastien and myself will try to give. Both on the scientific program, we'll try to walk you through everything we have tried to cover and the logic behind it, and we'll conclude on more general remarks after that. So really, we wanted to start this conclusion with a reinforcement learning mind map. There is no pretension here that this is the absolute reinforcement learning mind map, but I would really like to take everybody through this mind map to try to cover the different topics and the different challenges and difficulties that are commonly encountered in reinforcement learning. So it all starts with the definition of reinforcement learning, and obviously this can be debated, but for a generic definition, reinforcement learning is solving Markov decision processes with samples. Sometimes these Markov decision processes are not actually Markov. Sometimes you can have more than samples, you can have assumptions, but in a nutshell, reinforcement learning is solving these sequential interaction problems that are described as Markov decision processes via interaction, so with samples. And so the first branch in the mind map deals with the notion of value function and those Bellman equations that we introduced from the first day, and the characterization of what is optimality in reinforcement learning. It's related to the question of solving the Bellman equations with samples, the value function approximation problem, and the various different methods. And I only put a few of those keywords here about solving those Bellman equations with samples. Another way to think about reinforcement learning is to go into the second branch of the mind map, is to directly optimize policies, and it's really solving the maximization problem, J of pi. And so this branches into direct policy search and with two different branches, one about inferring gradients on this maximization problem, which led to the policy gradient theorem and actor-critic methods, and all the different algorithms that have been developed in that framework, or direct policy search without gradients using black box optimization or evolutionary reinforcement learning. A third kind of orthogonal challenge in reinforcement learning was the exploration versus exploitation trade-off, which was coupled to but distinct from those problems from the first and the second branch. Exploration versus exploitation led to questions of optimal sampling in the state space or in the state and action space, which were generally covered by the Bendix setting, which led in turn to the MCTS and AlphaGo, for example, algorithms. That was closely linked with the exploration versus exploitation trade-off in the context of value function approximation. And there is yet another notion of exploration versus exploitation, which was exploration of behavioral behaviors, and so that leads to behavioral diversity, curiosity approaches, quality diversity, or map lead types algorithms. Beyond those questions was that we could actually learn the models, and learn those models could lead us to more efficient reinforcement learning. This is what is generally called indirect reinforcement learning. Generally, it relies on model inference and planning. It's generally called model-based reinforcement learning or indirect reinforcement learning. It had consequences on data efficiency. It took us through the notions of introducing priors and prior knowledge on the policy, on the objective function, or on the MDP that we're dealing with. It also had consequences on our ability to generalize across tasks. And finally, if we want to complete that mind map and try to link together all the notions that we have tried to go through during RLVS, well, there is a number of connections that we can make between reinforcement learning and human cognition, logical reasoning, temporal abstractions, or more generally, convex optimization for the optimization problems we solve. And we have tried to link those with the different applications that one can apply reinforcement learning to. So now that we have done this sort of forward pass into the realm of reinforcement learning, I'll just try to take a minute to see when in those 6 days we have actually covered the different parts. So on day 1, we introduced the general reinforcement learning problem. We introduced the key, 3 key challenges of the 3 branches here, and we already opened towards temporal abstractions with Doina Prekap's talk and human cognition with Irina Shrish's talk. On day 2, we focused directly on the exploration versus exploitation trade-off, especially in sampling the state and action spaces, which is where Tor Latimore talked about bandits and Monte Carlo tree search. We also took a look into a first application of those bandit approaches to clinical trials. Then on day 3, we went into the Bellman equation branch. We took a look at value function, Bellman equations, how we can solve this approximation problem, and how that all extends to DQN and all its extensions and improvements over the years. We extended those ideas by taking a look into convex optimization for solving the Bellman equation. And we thought a little more about regret bounds on model-based reinforcement learning, which was sort of an opening. On day 4, we focused on the policy search problem with gradients. And Olivier Sigaud gave a great comprehensive class about policy gradient and actor-critic methods, which was complemented in the afternoon by Matteo Pirotta's class on exploration and value function approximation. Day 5 was devoted to the 5th branch here of black box optimization and direct policy search for the maximization problem, in conjunction with the fact that we could do microdata policy search by doing model inference and planning. And that led to data efficiency and the idea of introducing priors on different objects that we manipulate. We also took a quick look into applications, especially robotics application on day 5, following those notions that we had introduced. And finally, day 6 was centered on really practical issues in the morning with the great talk we had this morning with Antonin Raffin about practical tips and tricks for reinforcement learning. And those 2 opening talks this afternoon about generalization and reasoning in the reinforcement learning context and framework. So in the end, this mind map allows us to navigate the general landscape of reinforcement learning. I hope it will help you in the future navigate also the landscape of conferences and journals and different papers that we might come across as reinforcement learning researchers. And so our goal as a scientific conclusion for this reinforcement learning virtual school was really to have this forward pass of drawing that mind map and this backward pass of putting back what we had seen during different days and how you can get back to classes and class pages on the websites to recover information and summaries of different classes. So this mind map and this sort of scientific general conclusion being done, I'm happy to hand it off to Sébastien for a more general conclusion on RLVS.
Maybe there are some questions just before I tackle more practical information. So practical questions, so I will address them, no worries. Okay, so if no further questions on the practical side, I will, okay, maybe I'm just gonna actually share the app. Okay. Let me do it this way. Share it again. Okay. So thanks, Manu. Thank you very much for this mind map, which I think is really useful. So for the record, Manu had already done this mind map a while ago to explain to us all the little details, the many details, and the things that are nice to know when we speak about RL. And I think it's really useful it could be useful to you all to navigate through the many different concepts and algorithms and applications. So on the practical side, so we've had many questions as the one that was just raised. So the good news is that the websites, one of them, so the GitHub version will be, so it's already there, but will stay in the future for indefinitely long. And you can already access all the class material from the past days, and from today it will be available just in the next days. So this includes slides, notebooks, or links to notebooks, but also video recordings. So we almost have all video recordings. If some are not there or won't be there, please do not ask. It's just that the speakers did not allow us, but most of them are or will be there. So this is as a link so far to Zoom Cloud, but in the coming weeks, we will put all the videos on YouTube. So please keep an eye on that. The easiest way to access those videos on YouTube will be just by looking again at the mirror, at the GitHub mirror, because we will directly embed the videos there. So it's the easiest way to access these videos, and please don't hesitate to forward the links to anyone around you. I think it can be useful. As for the Matrix chat rooms, so we will keep an eye on those rooms for around 1 week, even though the speakers have already left them. But we will not further maintain these rooms within 1 week. So in particular, we won't take any more questions. As for the certificates of registration, so these are not certificates of attendance, just certificates of registration, but for an obvious reason, it was barely impossible to check that you were on an individual basis attending this school. So we'll certify that all registered participants, so meaning those that registered for WUBA, we will send you certificates by email. Okay, if you need that for your doctoral school, for example, we'll try to give as many details as possible in the certificates, including the program. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank again our official sponsor, DeepMind, not only for sponsoring the events, but also for the great speakers we have had so far. So it's actually many speakers from DeepMind. So if I'm not wrong, we have had Dina Prekup, Thor Latimore, Bilal Pio, Corentin Talek, Mengdi Wang, and Marta Garnello from DeepMind. So it's really many speakers. I'd also like to thank, in the name of all the organizing committee, all the supporting institutions. So ANITI, like we said, let's say the main organizing institution to which we almost all belong, the AI Institute in Toulouse, and then also Institut Mathématiques de Toulouse, Université Toulouse 3 Paul Sabatier, IRT Saint Exupéry, ISAE-SUPAERO, LAAS-CNRS, Toulouse School of Economics, Université Toulouse AI Capitole et Université Fédérale Toulouse Midi-Pyrénées. Most importantly, we would like to thank all the people that contributed to making this event a success. So I did not list the speakers, but this should be the first one to thank. And after that, there are all the members of the program committee. So if you could just say hi again or bye-bye so that we can see your face. So we have Emmanuel Rachelson, who just spoke. Tom Cesari, and Nicolas, David Bertrand, then, and Nicolas Mansa.
Hello, thank you for these 3 beautiful weeks.
yeah, it was really, really a pleasure. So we are very pleased to have had already some positive feedback. Don't hesitate to give some other feedback if you wish. We would also like to give a special warm thank you to all the teaching assistants. So they have done a really great job. Wibitun was listed on the top just randomly, but he deserves a special attention. I won't name all of them. Actually, many of these teaching assistants did a really, really good job, like maybe just a few of them. Erwan, Pablo, Adil, Sébastien, for example. But a special thanks to Louis and to all the other ones that I didn't list. But they really did an awesome job answering questions, also making sure notebooks were there in time. And this was really helpful. And last but not least, thank you to all of you. So do you have any questions? I see questions in the, I see thank you. That's very nice. Okay, these are no questions, but you're welcome. So if that's it, I suggest we close this school. We'll keep an eye in the few next days, just within this week on Matrix. So if there are any feedbacks that you want to give, we'll be there. Okay, so bye everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.